Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
You're listening to the House of Cards on Facebook, YouTube, and BigPatriotRadio.com. All licenses for music and content have been purchased by and are for the express written use of Big Patriot Radio Networks. All information, opinions, and topics are for entertainment purposes and do not expressly represent the opinion of the show's host and or producer. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Locked and loaded. Let's go. Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome again. It is Thursday, April 10th, 2025. I'm Mike Covert, your host and producer. We're coming to you live from the great state of South Carolina in the BigPatriotRadio.com studios. Welcome again. Welcome. Everyone watching on Facebook, YouTube, and to those around the world listening in on BigPatriotRadio.com. Don't forget, we have podcasts 5 nights a week on BigPatriotRadio.com. Monday nights is for the Cox Boys out of Pickens County and the New American Movement. Wednesday, Corey Allen's show is at 7 and 8 o'clock. Monday night, it was 7 and 9 o'clock. Sorry about that. Thursday, yours truly. Then Saturday, Ann Ubellis and Southern Sense Radio. And on Sunday is Andrew Southwick and his show, Culture Crossroads. Both of those are at 7 o'clock p.m. I want to thank you so much for those of you that have been watching us since day one, and there's quite a few of you out there. Thank you for continually making your Thursday afternoon, evening with us. For those of you watching on demand, we thank you whenever you do watch us. Those that are watching for the first time, special thank you to those, and hopefully you will make it a point every Thursday evening to bring us into your home, in your work, or your car. We want to thank those folks who are doing a huge part for the show by donating stars. That's right, donating stars on Facebook. A very inexpensive way for you to make a difference instead of, sending a contribution to help the show out with guests or with equipment, etc. Stars through Facebook is a very inexpensive way. I was watching a show last night, sent 100 stars, and I mean, it didn't cost hardly anything. Anyway, go to Facebook. You see it under all of our tags. Send stars. We greatly appreciate that. And or you can go through Venmo. You see it down here on your ticker. Venmo is also possible, and we really appreciate those folks. Remember, stars and the Venmo help keep costs down. This we don't charge for this. We don't charge for the podcast that we promote for other people. We try to keep this, for everybody, and those things make it possible. Those stars. Number one song last week on BigPatriotRadio.com was "Cheap Sunglasses" by ZZ Top. Real classic right there. Beaufort, again, the number one listening city with, it was a 3-way tie for second. That was Bluffton, Hilton Head, and Greenville, South Carolina. All of you rounding out the top 4 once again right here on Big Patriot Radio.
Bringing you the best selection of hits for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
BigPatriotRadio.com.
And don't forget, we always want to hear from you. And I apologize. Obviously, you can tell by my voice I've got a little something going on. I think it's due to the pollen and all that has given me a little springtime cold going on here. But we want to hear from you. So go into the chat bar for those of you watching us live on Facebook and YouTube, and you can type away. Whether you want to send us a message, you want to send us a question, you want to send the guests that we have questions or comments, whatever, we want to hear from you. All right. So over the course of the last few shows, we have told you about a development that was in the planning stages in the Bluffton area. And by the way, we've got a great show tonight. We've got two folks coming on here about the bottom of the half hour there, and then another lady coming on at the top of the hour. But right now, I want to talk about the development that we were in the planning state. It was in the planning stages, and we were telling you about it for several weeks. We had the developer on the show, as well as the much esteemed, and if you've ever looked into this guy, he is esteemed, retired Admiral John Stufflebeam. He is what the Top Gun fighter pilot is all about. That's what he was. He's the man behind the foundation, working with the development. Now, this development was, bringing in, I think it was 200 homes on 170 East 170, but like across the street, sort of from the back gate, I guess it would be, of Sun City. And a portion of that development, as is required by all developments in Beaufort County, was going to be, it has to be a public benefit, whether it's affordable housing or workforce housing or what have you. Their plan was for wounded and or disabled veterans and first responders to be able to have these units, these homes, and it was going to be paid for up to 100% of the cost if the vet could not afford it by this foundation. Anyway, we reported where other outlets were afraid to and are still afraid to, that County Council Vice Chair Anna Tabernick, during a natural resources meeting, said she voted no to this because she doesn't want any more traffic in her district, District 6. Now, Tabernick can claim that our comments are out of context or whatever. It is, at face value, it's a dereliction of office, and she knows this. The development, again, was to bring certain number of housing units and 20 to 30 veterans affordable housing, wounded veterans or disabled veterans affordable housing units to the same development. I want to remind County Council that they probably should look at the documents called the Beaufort County Comprehensive Plan to begin with, and the Beaufort 2040 plan that they use in the planning department and by council themselves as a governing document. These documents show, and its predecessor documents show, State Route 170 is the growth center in southern Beaufort County, along with Buckwalter and the Bluffton Parkway corner. That is a growth center for the town of Bluffton. 170 is the growth center for southern Beaufort County. Now, here's where County Planner Rob Merchant, I think, is derelict, and I agree with what Councilwoman Paula Brown has said about him, where, this piece of land is zoned rural. That's a mistake because this is the county's growth center. This is where the county has dictated they want the growth to be, on 170. Obviously, Rob Merchant hasn't done the job that he should have been doing in cleaning all this up, and that is at the fault of the planning director. And from the data that we have, Rob Merchant was first in favor of this and going to clean this up and move this right along. Then something happened, and Rob Merchant is no longer supporting it. But again, I agree with Councilwoman Brown that maybe Rob Merchant should investigate new career opportunities. Anyway, 170 is a growth center for southern Beaufort County. That's why several years back, 170 was built to 4 lanes, because that's the growth center. That's why I advocated for a stoplight at the very intersection we're talking about here, Sun City Boulevard, and this development area. And as I was about to fall off council, I had it approved and ready to go through some very interesting meetings with the SCDOT, former DOT chair, and I had spoken, former county planner, engineer, worked this all out. I fell off council. Tabernick came on council, and the stoplight has been killed Now, Anna Tabernick made promises that it was going to be there, but true to form, Anna Tabernick promises made but never kept. This is Beaufort County, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we're home to Marine Corps Air Station Beaufort, Fightertown, USA, home of the F-35 and the FA-18. We're home to Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island, where we've been making Marines for decades upon decades. We're home to the U.S. Naval Hospital Beaufort and to the Marine Corps Air Station housing Post Laurel Bay. If any county in South Carolina is and should be pure pro-veteran, it's Beaufort County. But our county council, following the lead of Tab Tabernick and unfortunately Alice Howard, is choosing cars over the Corps, trucks over the troops, vehicles over veterans. But there are a lot of people speaking out about this myopic view from county council. I spoke to one county council member recently, and we were talking about this, and this council member said, well, nobody has come out to speak in favor of this. And I had to remind them that, wait a minute, pump the brakes. Nobody ever comes out in favor of anything of a development. That doesn't happen. That is not the human mind does not work that way. I guess there's been one or two here or there, but it is not commonplace. That is not usual and customary. I had to remind them that those who are against will do all kinds of things. Speak in public, they'll picket, they'll do all kinds. That is human nature. It's unfortunate, but to sit there and say, well, I'm going to do exactly what the people tell me, and all we heard was nay, that's disingenuous, because there are as many, they just don't come to your meeting to voice that. People have tendencies to attack four things, basically, when it comes to development. Again, I'm talking specifically about this one development where all of these apply. The four things are, think about this: traffic, schools, environment, and affordability. That's right. Let me say it again. Traffic, schools, environment, and affordability. Now, real quick, last time we were on the air, I went through a long list of reasons, but traffic, this actually, I'm not going to go through that tonight, but traffic, there was a traffic engineer paid for by the developer. There was a traffic engineer that's employed by the county. They came up with the same answer, and that was this development would have a negative impact, a net negative influx of traffic. In other words, they're going to have less amount of traffic out of this development than would a quote unquote regular subdivision. Why? Because there is a internal transportation network that the foundation was going to do with the developer to keep vehicles off the roads. That and the right in, right out, two entrances, exits, eliminate the need for stoplights and things of that nature. Schools. Studies have shown that this type of apartment dwelling, mansion apartments, etc. Studies have shown that they have a less amount of children affecting schools than do regular, normal single-family houses. Again, not a bad thing. This is actually not causing any harm to the schools. Environment. The developer put forth or hired a environmental study and put the data out there. And that data said, well, at this time, at least on paper, because this is only conceptual, because remember, folks, that you can't, in South Carolina, the way the laws are written, they can't, buy the land and go ahead and have it all the work done and bring this to you for your proposal for your acceptance, because that's not how this works. These people don't even own the land, and that doesn't happen. They don't buy the land until the zoning is approved and the planning is approved and the development agreement is approved. That's how this works. So for those that are saying, well, they're doing it ass backwards. Well, talk to your legislator, because that is how it's done in this state. Anyway, the environment, from what's on conceptual forms, the environment was not, there's no negative inputs from this development. Affordability, obviously, how much more affordable can it get if the foundation is going to pay up to 100% for the wounded veterans and disabled veterans or first responders? To those folks who I have read comments ad nauseum from, or that I've talked to many times, that like to say, hey, we need to stop any more building. We need to stop it all. We got to stop. We're closed. 95. We're done. Everything is closed, over, out, period. That too is that sounds good. That's a good point for someone in politics who really doesn't know what they're doing, but wants to try to score some points. I'm for no more houses. If you're in this part of the county, unfortunately, there are somewhere around 20 to 30,000, something like that, permits that are already, or development agreements are already done. They're just waiting for this to happen. It's been that way. So to say that, unless you're ready to step out on a big limb and put a moratorium across the board, now that could happen. I don't know if anybody in county council or any of the city councils has the cojones to do that. I'd love to talk to them if they do. But, look, there's not a gate on exit 8 at I-95. When you came here, there was no gate. And there's not going to be one. You can't close the gate and close the people. Growth is part of life. Proper growth is part of life. Good growth. That all leads to life. That leads to longevity. No growth, zero growth, that leads to death. You look at some place, take for example, the town of Estill, South Carolina, or Allendale. Both of them are picturesque country towns. I could go on and on. Love going there, but they are dying a slow death. Allendale more so than Estill. Estill is in Hampton County. Allendale is in Allendale County. Allendale is always number 1 or number 2 or number 45 or 46, however you look at it, as the poorest county in this state. There is nothing happening in Allendale County sans, I think the West Vaco is there. That's it. There is no growth going on in Allendale County. Hence, Allendale County is dying a slow death. You want to see Bluffton, Hilton Head, Beaufort County die a slow and painful death? Then continue to stay on the no more growth platform, because that's where it's going to go. Those of you, the vast majority on here now, and in the future, you need, and I fall into this, we need and we require goods and services. Period. Start making a list. I need somebody to put a new roof on the house, or I need somebody to come, pump the septic tank, or I need somebody to, cut down some trees. Keep going. Paint the house, fix the car, fix the air conditioner. Just keep going. Those people need somewhere to live. It requires housing. To those of you on county council, if you choose vehicles over veterans, just keep on voting no. If you choose to do what the big pocket environmentalists tell you to do, and they are, we know they are, people know they are, keep voting no. If you believe in extorting your constituents to raise their property taxes because they voted no to a $950 million amount of higher taxes as Anna Tabernick, said she would do, then keep voting no. However, if you believe in the SOLOCO, or the Southern Lowcountry Regional Plan, their effort and their plans for regionalized growth, then stop this insanity and allow these people to begin a development agreement process. If you believe in the Clean Water Act that is in place to protect citizens, counties, municipalities from bad development, then stop this insanity and allow these people to at least begin the development agreement process. Final thing is next steps. You see, it's my guidance and my suggestion, not that anybody asked for it, but on county council, to you, the beginning of the development agreement process. That is the duty and the requirement, I might add. That is a requirement of the Natural Resources Committee. It says so in their mission statement. It's right there on the website. It's on county documentation. Part of the Natural Resources Committee, the reason they exist is for the development agreement process. Set that up, Chairwoman Howard. Set that up. Assign a committee. Get to the table and work this out. Hey, I'm the first one to say, if at that time nothing is able to be agreed upon and that happens, then it is what it is. So be it. Not doing your due diligence, that is a perfunctory dereliction of your oath of office and your promise to voters. Those of you that voted no to move this forward, that's exactly what I'm saying to you. You are derelict in your oath of office and your promise to voters. Saturday, I had the esteemed pleasure to talk with Council Member David Bartholomew, who's not in my district. He's over in Northern Beaufort County, over in the city of Beaufort and Ladies Island, around that area. I think District 2, I think it is. At the GOP County Convention. In his words, the developer needs to put in his application again and let them go about this properly. That was promising to hear that from him. I mean, he's even, from what he tells me, he is even suggesting ordinance changes that will help streamline the process in conjunction with state law that's already on the books to make this process a little bit easier to understand and follow the flow of work. As I told him during our conversation, and I'll tell you, if the question were to be asked to me, hey, Mike, what is it you want us to do? Whether it was county council asking me that or county staff, the bureaucrats, the answer is simple. Put up a development agreement committee. I've been involved in many of them. Brian Flewelling has been involved, Jerry Stewart, Rick Caparel, Tabor Box, Alice Howard. We've all been involved in them before in one or multiple times. Put that committee up and have the sit-down meetings with this developer and the foundation and iron this out. Again, if the result is, no can do, then, fine. And we've had those. We've had those before where nothing could be worked out. What I want, what you want, the give and take couldn't work. If the answer is something that's good for all, that's fine too. But for county council and the Natural Resources Committee to not perform what they are supposed to do, that's in writing in very bold letters, it's just pure negligence on their part. You as county residents, you as county visitors, you as county business owners, or in another county watching us, 2 people are watching from Omaha, Nebraska right now. I'm sure this is something you should carry to your county commissioners. Not doing what is in writing is just pure negligence. So, to those who were on that committee, Tabernick and Reitz and Brown, Howard, Passament, Bartholomew, whoever else was on there, it is your duty to the citizens of this county to do what is right to do what is just and to do what is written, and that is to have the Development Agreement Committee. It's simple. And I don't care what Rob Merchant or someone in the planning department is feeding you. I don't care. You should know better. It's in writing. It's in the handbook. We've got the receipts. I'm saying this, and I've been saying this loud and clear. If none of you come forward and make this proclamation known that, hey, maybe we could have handled this different. I know you don't want to admit guilt. I get it. I understand. Maybe we could have handled this different. Let's get back at the table and let's have a conversation. Yes, council member Bartholomew said put an application back in. Well, that costs a shit ton of money. I get it. But if you don't make this proclamation known that, hey, we should have done this better, let's go back at the table. Let's waive the filing fees. Let's go back to where we were, and let's see if we can't hammer this out. If you don't do that, I'm telling you now, you will be primaried. All of you heard this the last go around, and some said, he's full of shit. And you were primaried, and some of you lost. Period. Now, to make things even more interesting, we're getting ready to bring on our two guests here in just a second. Remember the Pine Island story we told you about for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks over on St. Helena? Pine Island, this is where property owner Elvio Tropiano wanted to originally build I guess it was 18-hole golf course with, there was a golf education center, offered tons of monetary support for Gullah and Geechee education and civics, and to the tune of, I think it was like $250,000 a year, especially for youth. I'm sure the next I don't know, pick one, Roy McIlroy or Tiger Woods may be on St. Helena, and you're not going to find him or her without something like this. But anyway, it was shot down. It was shot down by infighting in the community after several prominent people one-on-one showed support. But when it came into a group, as we see all the time in this county, it got shot down by infighting, lies, deceit from within their own community. The developer came back. Remember now, he spent millions of dollars of his own money trying to do something with this investment that he does own this. But there are some people who think they should be able to tell him what he can and cannot do with his investment. York Glover. So he comes back and he says, you know what? I don't have to get any permission for what's called by right development. So I'm going to go ahead and build a bunch of single family houses. I don't remember the number. There's already a permitted number available. They're all going to have septic tanks. It's St. Helena. They're all going to have water wells. We're going to clog up the roads, the daily trips. There's a mathematical formula. They would have had to have added roads on St. Helena, not just Pine Island. That would have had to, but on St. Helena because of the daily trips. And not give anything back to the community, that $250,000 a year. And they still complain, but he has the right, again, it's by right development. He has the right to really to tell them to pound sand. Well, I know he's never told them that. He actually is an upstanding guy. I've had a chance to talk personally with him. He's very smart. His heart's in the right place. And he's a professional. Well, now that area is back in the light. That's right. LVO is back in the building. And now he's made an amendment to his golf course plan by adding a recreation center that he's going to build on his dime for the Pine Island, or in the Pine Island area. Now, what's the big deal with that, you may say? Well, again, for months and months and months and months and months, and if you watch county council or you go there every week or every other week or whatever, you hear this one lady, and I can't remember her name. I keep forgetting it, but she's like clockwork. She's there every time, and she talks about, hey, the kids in St. Helena don't have a rec center like they do everywhere else. I mean, she is adamant about beating that drum to the point of almost begging for it on St. Helena. Now, they have been comparing the Buckwalter Recreation Center to their tiny island and asking for the same. I disagree, as there is nowhere near the same amount of people to warrant such a enormous building. Bluffton has multiple times the amount of kids compared to St. Helena. So the question is, does St. Helena need a recreation center? I would have to say, from what I'm reading and what I'm hearing, yes, absolutely. Sized proportionately to their population. Now, anyhow, they've been asking for it and almost begging for it. Now, someone in the private business sector, in the private business world, is offering it to them at no cost to the county. That's right. Everyone else won't have to pay for it. Everyone else will not have to pay for it. Will the county do the right thing now? What say you, County Council? I'd love to hear from you on this. I know several council members are watching, so please chime in. Let us know. Chime in on your chat room, and it'll come to the show. And if you don't want to, just say, hey, this is private. The question is, will you now oblige Pine Island developer and the St. Helena community and what they're trying to get done out there? Or are you going to continue to cave to external pressures and continue to stick your head in the sand?
Let's go! The station that keeps it rocking 24/7.
Ladies and gentlemen,
BigPatriotRadio.com.
All right. Well, the title of today's show, as you may have seen, was Orwell was right after all. Remember, he said, and I quote, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people that let me back up. It means the right to tell people what they don't want to hear. End quote. Well, we have two guests coming onto the show tonight who were delegates at the Beaufort County GOP County Convention this past Saturday. And to some in attendance, they are saying that they're, along with some others, had their First Amendment rights stomped on. Please join me as we welcome Helga Crandall to the stage. Hey, Helga, how are you?
Hi, doing good. Thank you.
Good. And Lauren Martell I saw her here earlier, so hopefully she'll come on here in a second. Helga, it's great to see you. I hope everything is well. And you recovered from a hectic Saturday there at the GOP convention.
I did. Thank you. It was good to see you there too.
Absolutely.
Disappeared on me at the end, though.
Well, there was a point where at the very end, I mean, I had all I needed to hear. And I think there was two minor things left, and I had other things to do. So I decided to bolt out of the back door. While you're here, Helga, let me ask you, you are a delegate from the northern part of the county. I'm going to jump right into some things. And again, hopefully Lauren will come back. You raised a point of order somewhat at the beginning of I'm going to call it the business section. Tell us what that very first point of order was about.
The very first one, I actually raised a point of information.
Okay.
Some more information as to how we were going to do all the county's business that was on the agenda when we only had, what did we have, an hour left? I think it was an hour and a half left after all the speakers. And that's when the county chairman, Kevin Henley, who, by the way, wasn't really supposed to be presiding over that meeting because he had turned it over to the temporary and then the permanent chairman.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't recall her name. I didn't write it down. So he was out of order, but he decided that he could answer the question. And he came up with these rules of how they were going to package everything up and put all the ballots in garbage bags and tape them all up, and they were going to count them back at the at the headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, state of South Carolina, for me, they broke the rules. They broke the law.
Mm-hmm.
We vote in secret, but we count in public.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that we are more than welcome to come to the headquarters to watch the count. But he was only allowing one person per region in the building. So, that in and of itself is taking away the rights of the voters, of the delegates. The delegate body should be able to watch this count. And it happens over and over again. And that's one of my key things. We're allowing our First Amendment rights to be taken away from us. We vote them away. We need to know the Roberts Rules of Order. We expect them to do things properly, but obviously they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They use we need to know the rules of the county, the count of the state, of the RNC. You need to know state law, just to get a good idea of what this is all about. Like anytime the chairman starts to speak against you or putting in his opinion, okay, Robert's rule says the chair is supposed to be neutral. The meeting is supposed to be our meeting. It was the delegates meeting, or it's the EC's meeting. It is not the chairman's meeting. He's just supposed to be guiding it along to make sure it gets through the agenda properly and that it stays in decorum, et cetera, et cetera. When you get to an agenda item, you're supposed to be getting a report, not a resume. I don't know how many EC meetings I went to, and there's one particular person. She would go on and on and on about all of her, resume-like items, and I'm still waiting for the report from the state.
Mm-hmm.
So those are and so what do? You need to know the Roberts rules in order to call them out of order.
Right. I want to go back just a second before we go where you are. I want to go back just a second. So at this point, when you were called, when you asked for a point of information, the question, and you answered this, who was running the meeting? And correct me if I'm wrong, but the interim chair of the meeting was actually Maria Walls, Treasurer Maria Walls, and then the permanent convention chairman was the young lady from Hampton County, I believe it was. Is that right?
If that's where that lady was from, yeah. I'll have to
So,
agree with you.
yeah.
I didn't make on that.
I tried to remember her name, and I'm too old for that now.
So Mr. Henley at that point was just supposed to be somebody in the background.
Right.
The people running that meeting were supposed to be that lady she would be the permanent chairman or permanent president.
Right.
You had the secretary, and then you had the permanent parliamentarian. So those were the three people that we were to talk to. I don't know if you recall in the meeting, Lauren was up asking a question. He turned to the audience, and the permanent chairman said, "You need to speak to me," which that's Robert's rules. So when I was up there, I was speaking to her, but next thing I know, I'm not speaking to her anymore. I'm speaking to somebody who was out of order.
Yeah. I find out
of order. The parliamentarian did nothing, and he's done this before. Because the rest of the people, the 288 people that were in the audience, if they knew Robert's rules, they could have stood up and called him out of order. But that's my point: is we vote our rights away by not knowing how to go forward in these situations.
So I want to, and I know you feel the same way, I want to educate folks as best we can, or at least point them in the direction of where they can learn this stuff. While you were asking, and what you were asking, I believe at the very first time, she ruled you out of order, which I found she ruled actually, you out of order. She ruled Lauren Martell out of order. She ruled Mr. Mike Tunner out of order. Maybe I don't know if there was anybody else, but she ruled them all out of order. And I find that extremely disingenuous. Why did she rule you out of order? That in your estimation?
I guess because she felt that, when Mr. Henley gave his answer to that first one of it being how he was going to package it all up, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, it got to the point where I just stopped because it became a he said she said. I played this game was played 2 years ago,
Yep.
and that, Maria Walls, when things were presented for the convention 2 years ago, and we presented it saying that we just got it, last night, she
Mm-hmm.
kept saying something about a 24-hour rule. So I don't know. I think that's a Roberts rule. It might be a law. I never dug into it, but it's a precedent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that if there must be something special about 24 hours, and I made
Yep.
sure to refresh that website all the way from 10 minutes to 12 to noon, figuring because that's when we were supposed to gavel in
Mm-hmm.
uh, for the start of the meeting. So from like 10 minutes to 12, I constantly refreshed the page because to see if anything was placed onto the call to convention page that the delegates needed to know about.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't there. I finally stopped checking about 20 after. I figured after I was going to give him a grace period of 20 minutes, but it never came. And so, but it became a he said, she said.
Mm-hmm.
And then she called me out of order, and I knew it was no reason to go forward. I made my statement to put in the minutes that I didn't agree with the chairman's decision. I'm not sure which chairman,
Right.
it should have been the young lady, but it
Right.
ended up being, Mr. Henley did all the talking. So I went to
I,
my seat knowing that
Mhm.
I had another I had another fish to fry.
Sure. Sure.
Later on in the meeting.
I want to ask you about uh, the young lady, whoever she is from Hampton, that was the convention chairwoman. I found that how she treated specifically the three of you all, because you had points of information or point of order, etc. I mean, she was downright nasty. I mean, I was very taken aback, and one of the few times that I'm at a thing and don't really say much, that was one of them. But I was very taken aback that whether Robert's rules or Jeffersonian rules or not, whether how the GOP works or not, that was just rude and snotty and inappropriate. Did you all find that? Did anybody else see that, or was it just me?
Oh wait, yeah, it was noticed by a lot of people, but they probably were thinking that what the chairwoman was saying was actually true, that I was actually out of order.
Yeah.
When I went up for the second time for my point of information was because I wanted to put the rule as it is written, the rules that we were the rules I guess we consider old rules today, but the rules that the convention was being run in.
Hmm.
Where Mr. Henley came up again and pushed that chairman away and took over the meeting. And I kept calling him out of order again, and the parliamentarian did nothing. Um, so that kind of repeated itself. And he kept going back to this one line, but he was skipping 10 words, and it's not in the state GOP. He kept saying it's in the South Carolina GOP and we had to become concurrent, blah, 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 blah. The rule was always going to happen where the rules would have to get passed at convention.
Hmm.
But in the BCRP rules, it said that the ECs at the EC meeting 30 days prior were supposed to have read them, approved them to
Hmm.
send to convention. And that's the part that he wouldn't let me speak. So then she's calling me out of order. I was able to go back and forth a little bit with chairman with Mr. Henley, because he was Mr. Henley at the time, not chairman. He didn't
Hmm.
become chairman until the temporary rules were closed, right?
Right. Right.
I was able to go back and forth to him while she stood there, and I was hoping the parliamentarian would take over at some point, like he was supposed to.
Hmm.
But when it gets to the point in the chairwoman starts saying, you're out of order. Well, the rule is out of order 2 times. The third time you get removed from the meeting. That's a typical Robert rule. It was in the standing rules. That's kind of a normal thing. But what caught me off guard was not necessarily her harshness. You kind of expect that. I've been to 2 state conventions and a CD1 convention over the last 2 years, and it is nasty out there. They're nasty like that to everybody. And, and what got me off guard though was there were, what you might not have seen, there were 2 police officers leaning against in that entryway. And as soon as she said, "Second, you're out of order," they stepped forward. Now you're being threatened, I guess. They're they're making their presence known, that, and I didn't want to. I wanted to stay for the rest of the meeting. I wanted to hear what else was going to happen. It's the only way you're going to learn and be part of the process is to,
you were going rogue, Helga. You were going rogue.
I'm going rogue. Yeah. So, when that happened, it was like, again, I made my point that I do not agree with the chair. I believe that and then again, the group then voted for the new rules as they were written. And one of the things they wrote themselves out of 2 years ago, we're there to put in 33 delegates to go to state convention. There's a formula that figures that out, right? So we got 33 delegates that go to state convention. A couple of years ago, it was written that there's 3 automatics, and it's those that are elected. You got the state EC, the chairman, and the vice chair, because those are the 3 positions that we elect. And so back then we were able to pick 30 out of 33. We got to pick from the delegate body. Well, the new rules put in a line where now all the board gets to go automatically. So you're looking at 10 positions now instead of 3. So now we only get to vote for 23. But even that's against the rules, because those other 7 people are appointed and approved. And the wording in the rules is elected. In the state rules as well. The word is elected. So, but we wrote the rules to allow it to happen. So you see, we gave away our voting right.
Yeah. Let me say a couple things about that and ask you if I'm on the right page here. First of all, with the rule change, I was alerted. I didn't see that at all, to be honest with you, until I was on the way there. Someone had called me and said, "Did you see this?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So in the parking lot, I actually read it. When I was inside in the foyer and just standing there, I spoke with Councilman Bartholomew and many other folks, a lot of other folks that I hadn't seen for a while. I asked, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, 30, maybe 35 different people about these rule changes that were being proposed. About the whole taking ballots away and, the whole thing that you explained. I didn't have not one single person comment that they thought this was a good idea. And I wrote this down for tonight. The responses that I got were, there was 3. A response of, "I didn't read any of this," which that doesn't surprise me. B, "Well, that seems odd and strange." And then C, "That is just wrong." Why did it get voted on and pass? If if there was 288, I talked to 30 to 40 people, do the math, that's a decent percentage, but it still got passed. Why?
According to the temporary rules, there was one of the rules says that if it's not on the agenda, we're not going to discuss it. It's not going to come up for a vote. Well, guess what was not on the agenda? The rule to move the ballots. And it's not part of the BCRP new rules package. This was a separate sheet off the side. So this was kind of like a resolution, kind of like a an extra. It should have gotten its own motion. It should have been on the agenda, and none of that was there. And that's something that the parliamentarian is supposed to be guiding them on.
Yeah.
And he's not going to, why would he want to tell us, hey, you guys, this is against the rules, you should be voting against it, Mr. Henley, you shouldn't be bringing things up like that. I don't know what they do in their meetings. I don't know if he's more forward about it there. Only one time did he ever rule in my favor, at an EC meeting. He seemed to have ruled in my favor because the resume stopped once I'm short of the ending. So I believe it ended because I was looking for a report, not the rest.
Right. Right.
The parliamentarian, I believe he's not going to rule against the board if the body doesn't know why he's ruling against the board. It's up to
Right.
the body to bring the problem. And poor planning on the board's time for only putting, getting that room for the 3 hours.
Yeah.
Nowhere ever do we ever, to take this vote. I don't know if he's taking it off of, how we all vote at the precinct and then we carry that thumb drive back to the house, back to the
Yeah.
main building for it to download. Is that where he's going? Limiting the number of people, it's just everything that I know. It goes against all the rules and regulations that I know.
Yeah.
But when it's
You-
voted in, and there's not much you can do. But
No. And this, I found it. I saw this today, and I found it strange. Reading some posts from folks in other counties. I read one from some people out of Charleston County. This same exact scenario. I mean, just take out the names and put in new names. This same thing happened in Charleston County, and I mean, there are people. I don't know. I'm assuming their club or their party, rather, their county party is bigger than ours. I'm assuming, but there are some people who are pissed about this. Our parliamentarian. I'm sure he's a nice man, but I can tell you that he does not know parliamentary procedure. I'll just leave that at that. But as we're running out of time here, were you successful in getting a delegate spot at the state convention?
At the end of the day, no, I was not. But I wanna put a shout out, a thank you to the North of the Broad delegation. We were 87 people, and there were 45 names on the ballot, and they had circled 18 of them for their slate. And the delegation, the North of the Broad delegation, did not vote by slate.
Awesome.
Because
Awesome.
I was tied for 18th place, which was the last of the 18. I
Right.
was tied for 18th place, and I lost at the coin toss. So I want to thank the North of the Broad delegation for having confidence in me, that they tried to make me a delegate. And I would have gone 100%. I would have been up there to check things out. I am in contact with a number of the counties
Mhm.
with all what's going on. There was some really nasty stuff in Horry County, and also Charleston County, Lexington County. They actually left Greenville County, which is a county that they keep going after. They've got this thing with this
Yeah.
group up there
Yeah.
with Maya CGOP, and it's just sort of like they're the ones that are willing to teach people how to do things. And if anybody is interested in learning, like Robert's Rules of Order, I know two people. They have different styles. One's a little more spicy, we should say, in the way he teaches compared to the way the lady that I learned most of my stuff from, with the way she teaches. she's got these online classes, Zoom calls kind of thing where you can actually interact with her and ask questions and stuff. So, I'm continue to take the classes,
Uh-huh.
learn as much as I can because it just seems like that's the direction I'm supposed to be going.
So now, if and there will be delegates that can't go to the convention, are you like first up? Is that how that
No,
works?
there's only 8. The first 8 are delegates.
Oh, okay,
The rest of them are alternates. So
gotcha.
I'm now 19. So that they'd have to be like a big catastrophic failure for.
Right. Well, you never know. You never know. Helga, I appreciate you as always. Thank you for your service to the county, the state, the national party. Again, I appreciate everything that you do, and the sentiment Saturday night may not have looked that way, but you are appreciated. Everybody is appreciated that was there, and I do want to say thank you. I've known you for quite a while. Thank you for being on the House of Cards tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Everything that rocks is right here. Right here.
Let's rock.
With Big Patriot Radio.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right. It is top of the hour, 8 o'clock here on BigPatriotRadio.com and Beaufort County's House of Cards. There was some action outside of Beaufort County GOP convention. We're getting ready to bring on our next guest here in a second. Outside of the doors of the convention, where it was first reported that state GOP chair candidate Barbara Arthur and or her team had placed signs on public property or elsewhere, and those signs had been taken down, some torn, thrown away, whatever, by an attendee of the convention. Now, there were pictures circulating all over social media, posted all over the web. The gentleman who did that, and I guess I should preface by saying allegedly, even though there's a big old picture with him and a folded up, wadded up sign with his name tag on. He's shown in photos in his hands, on his person, etc. Later, after our interview coming up, we have the comment from the Beaufort County chair regarding this. But first, joining us, I want to give you a little bit of a bio. Barbara Arthur is she's a candidate for South Carolina State GOP chair. Interesting facts: in 1969, Barbara and her father, 2 of her siblings, fled communist Cuba. On if you've studied history, you know about the U.S. freedom flights. Unfortunately, Castro's regime would not allow her mother and 3 of her siblings to leave the island. For 23 years, Barbara and her family were split apart. In 1997, Barbara married former South Carolina State Representative Warren Arthur and celebrate 28 years of marriage this August. They reside in his hometown of Hartsville, South Carolina, have a blended family of 8 children, 7 grandchildren, and they own and operate W.D. Arthur Insurance, small insurance business for the past 28 years. In 2021, having expressed no really previous political ambition, Barbara Arthur ran for the U.S. House of Representatives for South Carolina's 7th Congressional District, And here's a quote from her explaining why. She says, "My family did not flee Cuba to once again suffer under the iron fist of communism. As a patriotic American who proudly earned my citizenship, I simply cannot stand by while the Biden-Harris administration recreates Castro's communist Cuba in the United States. No way," end quote. Welcome to Beaufort County's House of Cards on Big Patriot Radio, Ms. Barbara Arthur.
Hey. Hi,
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to see you. How has the campaign, except for Beaufort County's issue this Saturday, but in general, how has, I know you've been all over the state. How has this been so far?
Mike, I'm meeting a lot of disenfranchised Republicans who feel railroaded by our party because their votes have been robbed and at the county and at the state level with all their violations of state law and party rules. And a lot of people just saying, we will not have anything else to do with the party. And it's heartening. I mean, it's just heartbreaking to see what's going on in the South Carolina Republican Party. It reminds me very much of Biden's administration and their Marxist tactics towards the American citizens and towards our nation during his reign of 4 years, his past 4 years. The same tactics that they use against us, the Republican Party is now using against the Republican membership. And I'm exceedingly upset about that. Unfortunately, I just I don't understand why a lot of the people in leadership, many chairs, many officers are willing to turn a blind eye to that. The ones I see that are doing that are the ones that have some sort of commit or appointed to some sort of committee, some sort of leadership, and they're willing to turn a blind eye. But I'm not. And I'm very concerned. I'm concerned for the Republican Party.
Let me ask you about the incident that Saturday here in Bluffton.
Yeah.
At the beginning, obviously, you heard I gave a 30,000 foot view. Can you, in your words, can you give us your opinion? What took place? I did get one of your cards. Have that. So tell me what took place from you.
Okay, what happened was that I contacted Mr. Kevin Henley. I called him first and I told him my name is Barbara Arthur and I'm running for state party chair and I would like to introduce myself. Click. He hangs up on me. And so, I understood he just didn't want to talk with me. He felt, I guess, the more he talked with me, the more he was obligated to continue, whatever the reason may be. But I followed up with that conversation or what happened with a text, and I sent him my my information, why I was running, my flyer, and I invited him to an event that I was speaking at in Charleston. And I also emailed him, and he did email me back saying, "I'm sorry, I hung up abruptly. I had an important conversation or something or a telephone call," which was not true because I could tell. He was not on a telephone conversation. The way he answered the phone, I could just tell it was not true. I could tell he was just trying to cut me off and did not want to hear from me. And I not just a little bit upset about that because the same thing happened in Berkeley with the chairwoman there. The same identical thing, except we did not speak. She never answered my phone call, never responded to my text, never responded to my emails, just completely ignored me. I am a Republican candidate running for state chair. And the same privileges that you give other candidates, you must give to me. And Mr. McKissick has announced he's running, so he's another candidate. But back to what happened in Beaufort, I had those signs made specifically for that convention. And prior to this, I ran for Congress for 18 months. I know how to place signs.
Sure.
And what I did was I placed them, my smaller signs against the stop signs, so that they would be, because it was a windy day and it would support my signs. And then one large sign, I'm not sure which ones did you see? Did you see which exit did you come out of? Did you come out of where the church was, or did you come out of
where the golf, I guess that's like a maintenance yard. I saw one of your big signs.
The big one. That's the only one I had. That was across the street. That was not on their property. That was only a few feet from the road, which was on public property. Mm-hmm. And I only had it there during the convention. I had no intentions of leaving my very expensive signs behind. I was going to take them, of course. And when I went to pick them up, I saw someone folding them. He actually had his foot on it and had folded it 4 times. And he had the three smaller ones in the trunk of his car, which he had already folded. And I'm thinking, why did you do that? You didn't have to do that. I mean, never did it cross my mind that they were not going to pick up their small little cheap signs. Right. I certainly wasn't going to leave that sign behind, which cost me. I had just picked it up from 2 days prior. I mean, there was no reason for it, none. And I'm just I'm concerned with what's going on in our Republican Party. Candidates should not be treated like that.
I think there's and after we're done, towards the end of my show, I'm going to kind of give an explanation of what public and private property is. But I think regardless of where they are, it is not becoming of a human to touch someone else's signs. Having been in office and ran for Congress as well, I can't. I feel your pain in the pocketbook. They're so expensive.
Yeah.
I honestly feel your pain. You filed a police report, as I understand. This, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to be a lawyer here, but in my opinion, what was done is against the law. The law is very clear on campaign signage and etc. Did the police, did they do anything about it? Do they care, or where does that stand?
I did file a police report because I was encouraged to do so. I was driving out of town, actually. And I went back, filed a police report. It's not that I want legal action. It's not my personality. It's not what I want. I did it because it's wrong. What they did was wrong. And it's not that I want to pursue any kind of legal. I'm running for office. That's not what I want to do. But what they did was wrong. There was absolutely, positively no reason for it except that they were being vindictive and controlling and mean and ugly. And there's just no excuse for that. So I do have my police report. I have a case number, Yeah.
I want to get to about, talk about your candidacy here in a second, but what would you like if the gentleman who did this or anybody said, hey, what can we do? I mean, personally, I'd be like, well, I struck me a check for these signs, but I mean, what would you like for them to do?
That's right. I would like to be reimbursed for that large sign and the 3 smaller signs that he folded up and put in the back of his car. That's all I want. I just, I also want them to stop treating candidates in such a manner. If Mr. McKissick is allowed to go in there and address the membership, then every other serious candidate should be able to do the same thing.
Well, serious or not, if you file the proper paperwork and you're doing the deal to run, then yes, I agree. Everyone should be able to have their 5 minutes or whatever.
Right.
Have other counties allowed you to come to their convention and pop in for, whether it's a 3-minute or 1 minute or whatever?
Yes. Actually, I was in Chester County last week, and they were very kind, very gracious. I'm very respectful. Like when I attended Chester, I stood outside, I shook everybody's hand, and she said, come on in, sit down. I said, would you like for me to sit away from the body? She said, no, just sit right here with us. No problem. She even allowed me 3 minutes to speak at the end. Very, very gracious, very kind. And I have also attended many other conventions where I stand at the front door and I shake people's hands. I'm very respectful. I understand that this is a very trying time during the convention and it's stressful. And I want to add to that stress. So I attended Richland. I shook everyone's hands. My sign was up at the entrance, no problem. I picked it up on the way out. And actually, I heard back from the chairman of Richland County, and he said to me that had he known that I was out there, he would have allowed me a few minutes to speak. And but that, again, I was just very respectful, and I did not go inside.
So Barbara Arthur is running for state chair. Tell us, why should the electorate vote for Barbara Arthur?
Because I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to make sure that the party gets back on track. Right now, the chaos that we're experiencing at the state and county levels is because the violations of state law and party rules. The law is good and it's there to protect our freedoms, our rights, and our liberties. And if you take that law away, you are violating my freedom. And that's what's happening. They're robbing us of our votes. People feel disenfranchised by the establishment. That's wrong. That's one thing that I'm going to do, is that I'm going to make sure that we follow the law and the rules. And it will grow the party also, because the way McKissick is doing things right now, he's actually not encouraging the county chairs to work with the precinct and the ECs who make up the county executive committee. The party is really run by the ECs of the county, and that's just not the way it is in many counties. Mr. McKissick works directly with the chair and eliminating other people so he can have more control. So by bringing in the precincts, you really grow the party. So that's one thing I'm going to do. I also believe that we are supposed to be the party that honors God. We say that we are the party that honors God, but we're not doing it. But I think it's important to get back to that. And transferring the power back to the people, back to the precinct level, so that people can recruit and vet candidates and elect candidates that accurately represent their values. Right now, the establishment is the one that picks the candidates. In my own congressional race, I did very well. I worked very hard, but Mr. McKissick did 2 mail-outs for one of my opponents, his chosen candidates, during a primary, although he told me that he did not get involved in primaries. That was not true. And I saw them myself. I saw him at events with one of my opponents, again, his chosen candidate, and that is wrong. That should not happen.
Let me ask you, I want to get your opinion on something. You know, I hear folks that are up in the leadership of the party talk about, you know, we as Republicans don't need to have fractions or fissures in the party. And I understand that. I mean, if I look at the Democratic Party, you have centrists, and then you have some on the far left over in the ditch who are, you know, really wild out there in their far left, you know, whether it's socialized or communist or Marxist ideas, but you don't normally hear them attacking each other. It's kind of they know their role, they know their lane, and they do them. In the Republican Party, you've got centrists of the Republican Party, and then you have folks who are a little more conservative than others. I consider myself to be a little more, or actually a lot more conservative than center of the road.
Right.
I've got one tire off the road. But in our party, from at least here in South Carolina, it seems like we can't get out of our own way from beating the living daylights out of each other. Why? But and let me make one thing here. But I also hear folks continue to say, "Oh, we shouldn't be fighting. We need to stick together." But then they turn their other cheek and they start talking about these crazy, you know, extreme right wingers. You know, the whole "do as I say, not as I do" thing. But we, as Republicans in South Carolina, are so discombobulated right now. What happened?
Being honest, we have lived under a feud between Drew McKissick and Jeff Davis from Greenville. For the past 4 years, there has been a feud.
Sure.
And I don't believe, obviously, Mr. McKissick is not doing right for the party, and I don't believe that Mr. Jeff Davis would do right for the party either. There's been a lot of rhetoric, and I just do not trust the man has right intentions. That's my personal belief. And I believe that there's been a lot, that's what's going on. We've been living under that feud. I understand that there's a lot of good people who have followed him because they want to get rid of Drew McKissick. And there's a lot of people that are labeled My SC GOP. My SC GOP is Mr. Jeff Davis's newsletter.
That's right.
That's what My SC GOP is, his mouthpiece, if you will. And Mr. McKissick, being the very corrupt politician that he is, knows how to use political tactics to his opponents, criminalize his opponents, if you will. And he's labeled anyone that is against him My SC GOP, which really are just people who are disgusted with his tactics and just fed up and don't want anything else to do with him. But he refers to these people who dare to speak up against him as my SCGOP. And I look at these people as people who are just upset, mad, angry, and don't want anything to do with Mr. Jeff Day, with Drew McKissick. But I personally do not trust Jeff Davis.
Mhm.
I don't trust his legal history. I think he's crooked, and we're not going to get rid of one crooked person to put another crooked person in. And that is one of the reasons why I'm in this race. I care about the Republican Party. For me, it's the party of freedom.
Mhm.
And I want to do everything I can to keep that. And I just don't think that either Mr. Drew McKissick or Mr. Jeff Davis are in it for the right reasons. Mr. McKissick for political selfish ambition, and Mr. Davis, I just don't believe it's the right reasons.
Understood. So Barbara Arthur gets in office, state chair, in your first 60, 90 days. What can you do? What do you believe that is possible to do? And that's a short time, 60 to 90 days, to make this the party of the people, the voice of the people.
Yeah, that's a good question. Get out and meet the counties and make sure that they have ECs, getting the right help, of course, making sure the precincts are organized. McKissick has not helped county officers to really organize precincts. That is a must. And we have the ability. The state has the ability to do that. So I believe that is the first thing that we need to do, is get that mobilized. I also believe we really need to train our young Republicans and all the membership on Marxist communist tactics, because we're dealing with a new breed of Democrats. It's a communist Democrat. And
right.
Republicans do not understand that. Mike, the communist Democrats did not disappear. They're still there. Just because Trump got in, they may have taken a step back, and they're waiting for that opportune time.
Oh.
I want to make sure that our Republican candidates are ready for that, and that the membership is ready for that. I believe that's very important.
I have to say that I highly agree with that. They have not gone away. They're changing their coat. They're changing their hat. And we see that with the Bernie Sanders AOC World Tour they're doing. They're still there. They're still there live and in person. One of the things that's extremely important, even though I hate to mention this because I'm so much against it, but it is important. The state chair of any state has to be able to raise a lot of money.
Let's talk about that.
What is your, tell me a little bit, Barbara Arthur's, 101 in fundraising?
Absolutely. Number one, Mr. McKissick takes a percentage of the Silver Elephant membership. I won't take that there. I just fundraised. Number two, I will target all the members who I have met throughout the state who say, I will not give another dime. I'm going to target those people. And number three, I'm going to work with Trump, who fired Drew McKissick in order to get elected. And he and his donors, those are the people to target.
Barbara Arthur from Hartsville. It sounds like you got a plan. How many more days? Was it May 4th? Is that when
May 3rd.
May 3rd?
Now, one issue. Let me quick. They are stacking people as delegates illegally, because what they're doing is they're harvesting delegates. They have changed the reorg form to take away the law, the rules. You've seen all that. Yeah. So what they're doing is they're out harvesting for delegates, and they're trying to stack delegates against people so they won't make it as delegates. This is what they're doing everywhere, as you can see. Yeah. So that is very concerning. They've done it already to a lot of people, and they're trying to do it here to me. I've seen that already because I've had some establishment people show up at reorg who have never attended any meeting.
And have they, I wasn't prepared to ask this, but have people gotten nasty towards you?
Oh,
and that right there goes back to what I was just saying. I mean, that is in complete refute of what I hear establishment people say. Oh, we need to work together. Well, then why are you attacking? Why?
The only ones that have been really nasty have been the establishment. This past Monday, I was invited to speak in Charleston, and originally I was given 15 minutes to speak, but then they took it down to 4 minutes because Drew McKissick had his people there to attack me before and after. But I was ready for it. They gave me a few punches, but I punched them right back. I was ready for it. And when I say that, I don't mean to be ugly when I say that. I mean, they were there to fight against me and to discourage me, if you will. But this is too important not to be prepared to fight right back. And we cannot be discouraged. We are losing the South Carolina Republican Party. The same communist tactics that were used by the Biden administration towards American citizens are now being used by this current leadership in RSC GOP against our own membership. You know, Mike, I can't help but wonder, has the CCP infiltrated the Republican Party? I mean, we can agree that communism has infiltrated just about every aspect of our American lives, from the DOJ to the local school board. What makes us think it hasn't infiltrated the Republican Party also? I mean, the tactics are there.
Absolutely. And I don't think that some would say, and I've heard this conversation piece before, and I have heard some folks, some that I consider very close, have said that's very far-fetched. However, I try to be in the here and now, and I see that. I have been in the communist. I've been to communist countries, not from them as you and my good friend that was on here making some comments, Nancy York from. She's originally from Venezuela. I see that is a valid statement. That's a valid question that you bring up. Is it in the Republican Party in South Carolina? I think that to ignore that is to be complicit with it, to be quite honest.
It's dangerous to ignore it, Mike.
Yeah.
Let's get honest here. In 2021, when I ran to tell the people of my district that the unseen enemy is communism, I had a lot of skeptics saying, communism, Barbara? Really? I can understand that then. Right now, they can see it clearly. So we know it's real. We know it's infiltrated America. It's here. But we cannot just turn a blind eye and pretend that there's not something very strange going on in the Republican Party. This is more than just politics right now. This is more than something very sinister is happening. Yeah. And it's systematic.
I think if people were to read things like the Communist Manifesto, read things like Rules for Radicals, and really, takes the time to sit and study what you just read, and then look at what's going on in our daily lives, whether it's here or in bigger cities or bigger states or whatever. There's a lot of things that you can't ignore if you want to be honest.
That's it.
Nancy York just commented. She said, "Amen, sister," to what you're saying. So that's awesome. Barbara, thank you so much for being on here. I know you've got just a few weeks left. You're going to be hitting all the other counties, and I wish you great success.
I appreciate that.
And you are always welcome back here on Beaufort County's House of Cards.
Mike, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Wickedness and filth this world has to offer.
Rock music that shatters your bones. Big Patriot Radio.
That's some serious rock.
And you're responsible.
All right, we're almost to the bottom of the hour. Folks, I did hear, and I want to say, we give the opportunity for everyone to be on here. Even those on the left side on the other side of the coin, and they never take me up on it. I don't understand why. But anyway, I did hear from Beaufort County GOP Chairman Kevin Henley, and while he was, I gave him the chance to be here. He was unable to join us tonight. He did relay some things to me, and I want to be respectful and relay that. This is his comment from the situation on Saturday, and this is a quote from Mr. Henley, chairman of the Beaufort County GOP. Quote, "I do not know Barbara Arthur, have never met or spoken to her. I received one email in early February. BCRP rented the Bluffton High School from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Beaufort County, and I'll just call it BCRP, was permitted to place signs on private property during those hours for directions. Ron Thomas, a volunteer from Hilton Head, and 2 other volunteers from Beaufort agreed to remove all of the signs before 3 p.m. I spoke with volunteers as I was leaving around 2:30 or so. FYI, Ms. Arthur also placed signs on the private property of the Low Country Community Church. BCRP did not touch those signs. All BCRP signs except one were on private property and were removed as agreed to with Bluffton High School. The lone sign on the road was removed by BCRP. Ron removed all other signs on school property as BCRP was responsible from 10A to 3P. This is private property. Ms. Arthur never contacted BCRP about attending the convention or notified BCRP she was coming. Ms. Arthur never entered the Bluffton High School auditorium or even requested to enter. Mrs. Arthur also placed campaign flyers on several hundred car windshields without permission from the BCRP or Bluffton High School. Beaufort County School District required the BCRP to hire paid security for the event. 2 were hired from 10A to 3P and an additional 2 from 12 noon until 2 p.m. There were never 20 security guards, as was stated. It's very unfortunate Mrs. Arthur has chosen to disparage the BCRP and alienate our 33 delegates. Our members, delegates, and alternates are furious over her comments and attacking Ron Thomas for helping keep BCRP in compliance with our lease agreement. BCRP expects a full apology from Mrs. Arthur and Ron Thomas, a valued volunteer. Resolution of this matter is in the hands of Ms. Barbara Arthur. End quote. Again, that was GOP County Chairman Kevin Henley. Again, I apologize for the way I sound. Now, I do want to add the following, and I think it's important that we understand definitions. Just like in legislation and ordinances, you need to understand the definitions of what you're talking about. In South Carolina, public schools are public property, not private property. They are owned and operated by the state or its subdivisions, such as school districts, and are intended for public use. This means that the state or its agencies have the title to the property, but it is not private title, public property for public use. You see, public school districts are considered subordinate agencies. This is all real estate and law terms. Subordinate agency, or an instrumentality of the state, meaning they have the state's authority to act on its behalf. Now, public school property, despite being owned by the state, is intended for public use with reasonable restrictions imposed by the state. The public has a right, that's right, the public does have a right to access and use the property for all permitted purposes.
Bringing you the best selection of hits for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
BigPatriotRadio.com.
Well, I want to remind everyone about the upcoming county council meeting. I believe it's up April 21st, 6 p.m. I encourage all of you to be there. Speak out in the citizens' comments about this abhorrent treatment of veterans, of citizens, of taxpayers by the elected officials. Bring a sign. If you don't want to speak publicly, bring a sign. Call them. Put it on social media. Do whatever you need to do. There are council members, and I said this earlier, who literally think that if you're upset, there are council people who literally think you don't exist because they don't see you or don't hear you making the same stink as those who oppose. Same thing as always. Anyway, thank you for everyone for tuning in. Again, try to help reach the 4,000 stars mark on Facebook tonight. Go on to Facebook right now before the show is over. Check out those links where you're watching. Give the stars to the show or write down our Venmo I guess, address, you call it, right there scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Again, your generosity is what keeps bringing in news stories and investigating them as well. All right, we appreciate each and every one of you. We appreciate Barbara Arthur, candidate for state chair, for coming on tonight. Helga Crandall, delegate to the county convention, and hope Lauren Martell is okay. Wish we had her on here as well. Tune in next time. We have some information coming out. As always, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to piss you off. And as always, it's going to make you want to go hug your kids just a little bit closer. Until then, be safe. And as always, watch your six.